everybody. I'm really, really excited for my guest today. It's Monique, and I'm going to let her introduce herself because she's epic and only she can do justice to all of the things that she does.
Hi, Tasia. Thank you so much for having me. It's funny. The last time someone interviewed me, I was like, "Hi, I'm Monique. I have two kids. I have a husband. I'm a personal chef in my free time, actually all my time, and this, that, and the other." And then she was like, "Well, what do you do for a living?" I was like, "Oh, right, forgot about that part." So, the truth of the matter is I think the majority of my day and my identity is really in being a mom and a wife and the keeper of this house. And a few hours a day, I write, I go live, I do storytelling, I teach other people how to use their voice in a powerful way. And I think that people miss that. I think it's so easy when you're in an online space and, people typically see me showing up for business thinking that that's the biggest part of my life, but it's really not.
I love that so much. I love that you're sharing that. Originally we were with this where we were talking about thriving, but then we were talking before we started recording, and there may be more that comes through. So I just want to let whatever comes through happen that way. But I definitely think that thriving is more of a personality trait than something you do in one area of your life. So it makes sense that if you want to like food is a way to thrive, and having thriving children and having a thriving relationship and having a thriving marriage, like all of those things are so like they're individual in their own vein, and yet there's an overarching theme of thriving. And then also having a thriving business. I think a lot of people think your business is the biggest part of your life because you're prolific.
Mm. Well, first of all, thank you. And I think that that is part of my personality. It's like I don't dabble. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it with all my heart, with all my gusto, with all my energy. And so I think that that is something that I've learned because I was actually telling a client last week or the week before that when I first came online, I thought I was going to focus on like, I'm a mom and maybe you're a mom like me and you have a business and I have a business. And what I realized is that a lot of women who would call themselves moms and in business had a very different approach to me. And we actually weren't compatible at all because while we both had a lot of the similar family values and values in the home, they dabbled.
Mhm.
And I just figure it's not even worth my energy to dabble. If I'm going to dabble, I might as well just be full blown a mom and a housewife because for me the payoff isn't there. So when I do show up, I show up, I put it everywhere. I'm very set on like my content get in front of at least 250,000 people every week because I just figure if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it. And if I'm not going to do it, then I might as well be fully present with my kids.
I love that so much. And I think recently you posted, and I don't know when this is viewed, like if this is going, this context will like last because it may be, but you posted something online about rich people and rich people's problems. And I feel like a lot of people look at rich people, especially when they're self-made entrepreneurs, and they think that like, oh, that person was just really lucky and they were given everything they have. And I mean, you can definitely be dealt a good hand, but people are dealt with amazing hands and they squander it. And the other can be true too. When you're talking about going all in, and I know you just started over, like you had some personal setbacks and you reached a point where you might have stopped. And I would love so much because it's such a, I know it's a personal experience, you don't have to go into anything you don't want, but um the overall trait that you have where you're just, you will thrive, you will put your heart, you'll go all out. Um I really think that that needs to be recognized as such a virtue, and I feel like it gets overlooked or people act like it's just a God-given trait and not a choice you have to make. So if you can like just speak to that as because it's your personal experience, I would love to hear about that.
Mm, thank you. You're actually making me see it in a new light right now because I think it is something that is often taken for granted. Like, just everybody has that, or that's just, that's a given. And I think that it's a choice over and over and over. Even when you were speaking, I was thinking about multiple times when I was tempted to stop, when I was tempted to not move forward in this way. Many times I have seen this trait as a negative thing. Like, if I could just half-ass my life, it would actually be a lot easier in a lot
Yeah.
of ways, I mean, too bad I can't get a job, do a shitty job, clock in, clock out, go home, and not care about any of it. I don't have the capacity to be that person. So, what does it
Wow.
actually look like? There's a very specific moment that popped up when you were talking, and I have sort of my deep contemplation usually about 3 a.m. And I was laying in bed and I was contemplating. It was probably about a year ago. I was contemplating just not not doing this anymore. And what I mean by not doing this anymore, not being fully myself, not playing all out, not giving a rip, not excelling, just like, you know what? We're just going to pay the bills and take the trash out on Tuesday and call it good. And I'm going to tell you what happened. I was in this back and forth with myself, and I literally sensed my boys, one on either side, and they were watching and hearing this dialogue inside of me.
Wow.
And right then and there, I knew I couldn't do it. I couldn't go through with it. And I knew I couldn't dumb myself down. I couldn't dull myself down. I couldn't start living sort of like a dead person.
Yeah.
um, because what I realize is they are watching, they are listening, they are absorbing it, they are observing it. They pick up on everything, whether we think they do or not, whether we think we're doing a good job of hiding it. They are so aware. And that was the turning point. It's not when everything clicked, but it's when the decision was made. Shit. Well, as long as I have breath in me, I'm going to do everything with all of my heart.
That's really beautiful, and I love that it's your dedication to your mom that really it's a dedication to you being a mom, your role as mother that really prompted. That's just kind of an interesting slip, like, I'm just, like, reviewing in my brain, "Wait, why did that come out?" Like, that might
You
be
know
something.
what? I think that is something as well, because I've had this what should we call it, tumultuous, rocky relationship with my mom over the last couple of years. And I actually had an aha moment. This whole morning, right, has been a very emotional morning.
Mhm.
So on Friday, the boys had they were in this theater class, and their play was on Friday, and they had two. It was a double header, so they performed two times on Friday,
Oh,
and so I went two times. Okay, so double whammy. I'm facing a bunch of people in the community who don't like the fact that I live all out. Like, why can't you be average? Why do you think you're better than everyone else? Why don't you tone it down? Stop doing that. And then the fact that my niece is also in the play, so my mom could possibly be there, my brother, my sister-in-law, my nieces. And so I walked into this building and I was just like, this is what I do, because my boys are performing and they're very proud of themselves and they've worked hard. But it nothing big happened. Actually, nothing happened. It was
huh.
it was pretty, like, in a drama scale, it was absolutely boring. Nothing happened. But what happened on Saturday, the day after, is I could feel the aftershock of, right? I was strong on Friday. Saturday, I was like, shit. Like,
Mhm.
the tears, the right. And then this morning, the boys, they weren't feeling that great. We decided, you know what? We're not going to go to school. It's Cinco de Mayo. What the hell? Let's have tacos and margaritas and skip out of school, right?
Love it.
But there was this moment when I said, this is the layout of the day. I'm getting interviewed at this time. I have an appointment at this time. You guys can chill at this time. And these are the other things that need to happen. And one of my sons wasn't happy about the plan, because he was really set on this being I do whatever the heck I want. But if you're living in this house, right, it's not just stare at a TV all day. And so him and I started battling about, why we're going to pick up the house, why we're going to have breakfast, why we're going to have time together. And in this fight, really, what I was able to convey to him is the thing that you're talking about. Number one, we do everything with all of our heart. And if we're going to be a family that isn't just another family, that isn't sort of a below average family, it takes time and energy and effort to build relationships with each other. And if every person goes off in their own corner, and I work and daddy works and you stare at a screen and he stares at a screen, that does not create the dynamic of a family that I want. And we unpacked this conversation
Wow.
until we understood each other.
That's huge. So many people seem to think that good relationships just spring out of nothing and like great relationships are low maintenance. And it's not even just cultivating, it's cultivating intentionally. Like there has to be the intention too. Otherwise, it's just like your relationships are subject to circumstance. And it's like it doesn't need to be. But one of the things you said that I'd love to look back and reflect on was doing everything with all your heart. And it's interesting because that's what like, when you're thriving, that's like, your heart is really in it. And I think so many people nowadays think of money and making money as, like, a heartless like, there's no heart in it, it's going through the motions. And that it feels like that kind of doubled down when you were saying you can't just have a job that you clock in and clock out and do half-assed because that shuts your heart down. Your heart is too big for that. You have to be an entrepreneur because your heart needs bigger than the space it would get in a corporate setting. So you create your own corporate setting that's full of heart. And I love that so much. It contrasts with a lot of how a lot of people may see money. But it also like heart energy is magnetic, right? So it attracts things to you. And one of the things I love is that when you put stuff out there, it's going to sell. You're going to sell the things that you offer. And some may sell more than others, but I have never in my life seen anybody who had such complete and utter confidence in their ability to attract clients when they wanted to sell. It's like you don't care what's going on the outside circumstances, like people talking about the economy, people talking about no one's buying that, and that doesn't interest you at all. What interests you is where your heart is, and you know that there will be somebody who will be there to receive it. And I would love if you could talk a little bit about like the magnetism of your heart-centered energy.
So for me, if I'm doing everything with all my heart, I'm even vacuuming with all my heart. I'm making breakfast with all my heart. I'm making this special matcha latte with all my heart. If I'm doing everything with all my heart, if I am spending hours meditating, walking, um, in nature, and I receive an idea for my business. Okay, so let's maybe start there. I don't start with a pen and paper and a brainstorming session and a what is the fastest route to me earning X amount of money. It doesn't work for me. In fact, I think telling this story will probably be the best way for me to illustrate this. So last month, I did not have an idea or an inspiration or an offer or anything. I didn't have an idea until April 14th. Okay, so from April 1st to April 14th, I was just living my life wholeheartedly, but I had absolutely no ideas or inspiration or direction in my business. Okay, so this is what running a business actually looks like versus what I think a lot of people kind of conjure up in their mind.
Mhm.
But on April 14th, I woke up. Sam and Derek were here in the living room, and I said, I'm going to get you, you're going to take over with the boys. You're going to get them on the bus. I'm going to get myself ready. I'm driving to a coffee shop. I'm having the mushroom hero tea, and I got it, and I've got to write it all out. So I went to this coffee shop. I had my cup of tea. I wrote everything out, and I knew that this wasn't just the thing that people were going to buy, the thing that would bring in money, pay for this, that, or the other. This was an idea that had come from another heart into my heart to transfer to others. Yeah.
Mm.
So I wrote it all out, and then I didn't even offer it until the 21st of April. It sat here in my heart, and I loved up on it, and I really sat with it, how I was feeling about it. And then I presented it. Then I wrote about it. Then I talked about it. I went live. I put it in groups. I emailed it. I did everything. I utilized every tool I have. I turned my microphone up as high as it would go, and I put what had landed in my heart into their hearts, and then I left it. And let's see what happens. This is where the confidence comes from. This isn't me, I'm going to try hard and I'm going to think of something that might get me what I want. And then I'm going to go try to shove it down someone's throat. That's not the way I do it.
I love that because the way you do it, I feel like most people go the first model. Like most of what I've seen, I'm making assumptions based on patterns of what I've seen people discussing online. But the way you describe it, like it works and it works over and over and over again. And also it helps you be expressed in who you are. So it's feeding your self-expression and it helps. Like, I think that people don't realize how much of a being connected to your heart is having a relationship with your heart. Like, it's just taken for granted, like, "Well, my heart's a part of me." But I know that my heart really started to, work with me when I started to work with her, and it was very much like, I created a name for her, and I would journal in dialogues with my heart because I have hurt my heart so much that there was a lack of trust, so I really had to, like, create trust. And what I also the word courage comes from the French word "corps" for heart, and encourage, like, that idea of being filled with courage, which is what encouragement really is, like, being filled with heart. And it just always amazes me because that heartfelt part, like, so much of what is put forward as courage is really just cowardice and bravado, and it's like the real courage is that heart-centered living, like you're saying, and I love so much that you it's not a one and done decision, it's a decision that happens over and over and over again, and sometimes it's conscious and sometimes it's unconscious, but it's still something you have to choose to do over and over and over and over again, and I love that that's the magnetism not just with your offers, but also with your confidence. Like, it all feeds it's like it's feeding one feeds the other, that feeds the other, that feeds the other.
Yeah, it all sort of works together. One domino knocks the next one down. And yeah, I think to with what's happening right now, the reason I'm not interested in conversations about what's happening outside of us is because I've had too much evidence that tells me it's not about what's happening outside of me. Truthfully, I have had, you might want to call them training wheels or crutches or additional support that I've leaned on. Actually, just this morning, Derek and I were talking about how in this comeback, I viewed it as my most difficult comeback. Other comebacks, I had things that I really loved. We were living in Europe. I got to travel, every single weekend. We were
Mhm.
in this circumstance or that circumstance. And he listened, God bless my husband, he'll listen. And then he goes, "Well, Monique, I'm going to challenge you on that. You always thought that part of your success was travel or adventure or this or that and the other." He said, "But right here in your hometown, with you dealing with the largest number of battles and enemies from the inside and out, you made the most money. I haven't
Wow.
even I haven't even had a valid passport for 4 years." And all of a sudden I leaned back and I was like, he goes, "So, can we settle once and for all? It's not what's outside of you, it's what's inside of you."
That is so powerful. I love that so much because it really is it's, I was talking to Jessie this morning, and she was saying that shifting your inner world and then waking up and your outer world has changed as if by magic, and I just love that quote. I mean, it's not exact because I can't read my own writing, but that, like, aligns so perfectly with what you're saying.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I have always preferred the outer world. Like, I remember I met the Sagittarius, God, about 6, 7 years ago. It was before COVID. And she said how a lot of Sagittariuses love the outer adventure, that, they love to travel. And she's always loved the inner adventures. And I thought, that's stupid. I don't even know what an inner adventure is, right? This is what I was thinking when she was talking to me. I didn't say it out loud. I was nice enough not to say that. But I didn't get it. I really didn't get it.
Mhm.
Now I get it. Is this is the inner adventure. It's like, when we plan a trip, like I don't like travel because everything goes smoothly. I actually like it because it throws me off balance and I get, because I get bored easily and I need something. So when you book a trip, I remember the first time we took the boys to Europe, we flew from Mexico City to Orlando, and in Orlando there was a delay, and so we have what 2 and 3-year-old in the Orlando airport for like 13 hours, right?
Wow.
And that's not every parent's dream. And then we get on this long flight to Europe, and then because of the delays we had like 3 hours to sleep in London, and then we head right to Corfu, and then we go from Corfu and we get on a ferry and we go to Albania. And I remember this Greek lady, she was like scolding me because she's like, what kind of mother puts their 2 and 3-year-old on a plane and then a ferry, and da, 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 da. And I just laughed, because if you don't get it, you don't get it. But what I realize now, I didn't like it at the time, but the internal adventure, the internal journey, it was the same way. It didn't go smoothly. It had all these bumps in the road, and it pissed me off. And the layovers were longer than I wanted them to be, and the delays were this, and it was exhausting and all this. But now I understand what it made me. I can now appreciate what it forged in me. And to
Yeah.
tell you the truth, that's the most valuable thing to me now, because I'm not like, I'm knocking on wood. I'm not like asking for anyone to take this as a challenge, but from this day forward, it's going to be very difficult to break me in this lifetime. It doesn't even matter if everything was stripped away from me. If everything was taken from me, if I was thrown in jail, if I was sent to a deserted thing, if they took my kids from me, if they took my vocal box out, I know, because of the internal and the external journeys I went on, I will not stop being this person. Even if all I can do is radiate it silently, I understand the impact I can have, even if everything I have now was taken away.
That is such a profound, like, it's taking a second for that to, like, because it's such a profound assertion. Um, like, there's no room for blaming external circumstances when you can say that about yourself, and it's so counter the narrative that I hear constantly, like, "If only this, and if only that, and if only this." And my own internal, is just like, "Wow, that's amazing." Like, how does that feel if I thought about that for myself? The thing that pops up when you were talking was, like, the poppy the tall poppy syndrome, right? So it's like the idea, I hadn't even heard that till really recently, but it's the idea that there's a poppy field and it's the tall poppy that gets cut down. And I think it's like our poppies are just about to bloom, which is why I have poppies on the brain. I love the poppy. Like we have the bright orange ones. But
Yes.
like it's like you're the tall poppy that can't get cut down. It's like you have that tiny titanium stem that you can't just go clip, like, it's unclippable, and so you will continue to be the tall poppy because you're not available to be cut down, and it just like, that image, I'm like, a titan like, that's a like, just that idea of this flower that you just cannot cut, like, that's such a beautiful image, and I love it.
Mm, I do too, because I've got those exact poppies right through that window, and they're going to
Oh,
bloom as well. And I think this ties back to the Freudian slip, whatever we want to call it, that you had in the beginning, because the thought I had this weekend is my mom actually gave me the greatest gift of anyone in our battles,
wow.
in our conflict. Had she not done what she did, it's kind of like a mother that says, "No, we are not going to do a cesarean. We are not going to do an epidural. We are not going to do some magical whatever. This baby is going to face the birth canal, and this baby is going to overcome the birth canal. And that's how this baby is going to overcome its first challenge in entering this life." My mom gave me sort of a birth canal experience in the middle of my life. Like, if you don't pass this test, you will not have what it takes to be the most powerful version of yourself. Your greatest test is to stand up to me.
That's quite the initiation. Mary Oliver is one of my favorite poets, and she has a line that like she gave me a box of darkness, and it took me a long time to realize that this too is a gift.
That's it.
That's really powerful.
And my mom gave up her relationship with me. She gave up connection with me in order to make me the best version of myself.
Oh, that's both really hard and also I can see how that could play out so vividly. Like that's such a visceral experience on all levels because it's like your mom, like that's the primal connection to life in general. And also like 50% of who you are. So it's like even if you have a lot of because I think a lot of children and parent dynamics are really up right now, like in the air. Like there's a lot of uh on a very big macro scale, it's like the renegotiation of what it is to be child and parent.
Yes,
But it's like no matter how much you cut, if you can't really cut your parents off completely because they're still a part of you, and it's like you can go through all the things, but it's like you can't close that off completely. Like you can't really cut it all the way out. But to realize that it's a passage, a rite of passage, and an initiation to be who you were meant to be is so powerful because it helps you cut those lines and set those boundaries while still respecting the connection and also being able to fully integrate within yourself. And then because it's such a the mom is such a the energy is such so primal, like that really is like the ultimate inner adventure, like you were talking about.
absolutely.
Wow. That's so much to reflect on.
I'm glad we can have just like a real light conversation here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but the thing is, I think that sometimes when you see people you admire, like I really do admire you and I love so much the things that you've done and the way you encourage people, the way you coach, the way that you're so honest and upfront with so much that's going on. But it's so easy to see how somebody is and create a persona in your head and think that that's the person that they are. And I mean, like, I think this happens with celebrities all the time. It's like everybody knows who Meghan Markle is, and I would assert that the more people are sure they know who she is, the less they know who she is. And like the same with Taylor Swift and even like people that are in government, like the more you think you know, the less you actually really know. And I think it's really important when you have these ideas in your head of who people are to actually hear what life is like behind the curtain. And I'm not saying that we need like tell alls of these people. I'm just saying that our assumptions often strip people of their humanity. And it is so important to like really realize that every person is still a person. Like I hate the NPC. I don't even know what that stands for, but I hear people talk about it all the time. I hate that because it's like stop stripping people's humanity away. Like we have enough narcissists in the world that will do that for itself. Like we don't need to fuel that fire. Every person has a heart, every person has a brain, every person has a divine spark of God inside of them. And we need to stop stripping it away. And I think one of the strongest ways to really bring that connection is to hear the human side of things. And it's also like I'm a big fan of the hero's journey. And I know that you've done a lot of like publishing with different aspects of that and authors that have amazing stories that they want to share. Um, those are the things that really unite us more than anything.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing when we're having a hard time relating to another person or liking someone else or we're just immediately dismissing them or putting them below us or putting them above us, it's so important to remember people's stories are not that different. I mean, that's what living overseas taught me. I was, an American who grew up with everything. I go to Albania, who had been cut off from the rest of the world for a minimum of 50 years, and I thought, I'm going to have nothing in common with them. I don't even know how we're going to connect. And then I figure out very quickly that's not the case at all. We
Mm,
on so many levels because we're way more alike than we are different. Nobody's really that unique in that we all experience love. We all experience pain. We all want to belong. We all have felt this range of emotions. And, there's certain things that we're not going to be the same on, we're not going to agree on. But at the end of the day, there's a lot more that we share than not.
Yeah. It's really quite amazing, and it's like everyone thinks that their fear is special and unique and, like, nobody will understand, and Elizabeth Gilbert does a lot of writing about fear, and I love her writing because it was like, "Your fear is not special, it's the least interesting thing about you," and it's like if we stopped identifying with our fear, like, we could start identifying with our strength, and that's where
Yes.
heart and that's where love lives, and that's, like, shifting the whole narrative.
Yeah, and so why don't we talk about our strengths? Why don't we talk about what we care about? Why don't we talk about those things? I think it comes back to that tall poppy. As long as I just can live in, this is actually too much for me, and this is where, these are all the reasons why I can't overcome X, Y, and Z. It's the safest place to be, right? I've often thought about, people who have jobs. They're sort of like I don't know. I observe them like maybe people observe like rats in a lab, right?
Yeah.
Because it's such a different world for me. And I see that when people have jobs, they'll often keep a job they hate because they have a connection to coworkers. And their connection to coworkers is that they complain about the same things and the same bosses, and they are unhappy about the same things. And so that's their bond. People love to bond over bullshit instead of bonding over strengths. And so it's like if I
Mhm.
talk about where I'm powerful and where I'm strong and where I'm passionate, I have a greater chance of getting rejected because most people just kind of want to sit around and, you know, the conversation won't change much for most people in
Yeah,
5 years
wow.
and 10 years. It's not going to change much, right?
Well, and it feels too, and I say this from having cycled through several, social groups, not from it as my boundaries got bigger and better, the things I would put up with changed, and a lot of long-held, loved relationships, they were codependent, and I realized I didn't want those, and it's a new skill set to learn what it looks like outside of that, and it's like the codependency is definitely another aspect of the tall poppy. Like, I don't want to be a tall poppy, so if I just grow to here, I'll be okay. The thing is that the safety in that is an illusion, and I feel like the world is going to expose that illusion more and more. But I definitely get what you're saying as far as like people, because some of my favorite people that I made friends with when I was working in the corporate world, we did bond over other like, complaining about other people, whether it was coworkers or bosses or company policies, and it definitely but it's such a weak way to bond, like, to bond over being oppressed in that manner, I just, um
But what does it do? It allows us to protect our heart, truthfully, right? Because if, like this morning, I had a bonding moment with my son. First, we fought, but then we bonded. But that was possible because our hearts were open and we were honest.
mm,
When we're just in the same building at the same hours, eating the same donuts, having the same coffee break, got the same annoying boss, got the same annoying policies, and that's what we bond over, that doesn't actually require me to expose my heart or myself or to be open or transparent. I don't have to risk anything in that.
it's true. Well, and there's also a big divide between people's working lives, like, it's a big compartment, so it's like, this is your work compartment, and this is your real life compartment, and it's, like, 2 very different personas, so it's like living a split life. I also think though that like when you learn to bond to people about complaining, you outgrow your complaints. So you have to find bigger and bigger things to complain about, especially to keep new bonds coming in.
It's
So it's
so
like, oh, I
true.
already complained about that for 20 years. I need new friends. What else can I find to complain about to have new friends? And I know that sounds like, but
It's
really, like, and I'm
true.
not saying that externally. That's like been my internal adventure until I'm like, I'm kind of sick about bonding to people about how things are messed up in one way or another, whether it's internally or externally or being a victim of something. And I'm not like in no way shaming that experiences can be incredibly painful. Um, and you can't just solve them with a platitude. I'm not trying to like in any
No.
way erode that experience because that is a very real experience. And it's not the only one.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think I this is a conversation that we've had as a family. So this whole topic of rich people problems. So part the boys and I actually had a conversation about why it's more comfortable to be friends with people who make about the same amount of money that you do or less, and why it's uncomfortable to put yourself in situations where people have achieved more than you or make more money than you or have better opportunities than you or are just further along in the journey than you are, and why people will predictably choose the more comfortable over the stretching. And I can't remember the lady's name right now, but I was watching a reel of hers, and she said that negative emotions and negative patterns are way more contagious than positive ones. And so she was saying exactly what you just said. So if we regularly choose to hang out with people who are about the same place in life, have made similar decisions, are getting similar results or lower, then those negative conversations, those negative emotions, those sort of sitting in the past, it gets affirmed, it gets reinforced over and over and over. And then it actually becomes harder to make a different choice because I've so solidified myself in that, and I've so justified it, and I've so fought that battle. Now, if I change my stance, it's like my whole platform has to change. I have to blow up what I actually built for how long.
Yeah.
And then she was saying, on the other hand, when you choose to hang out with people or you join events or masterminds or whatever it is that it looks like, it's going to actually take you longer to absorb their confidence, their ambition, their vision than it would on the other end. And this is why a lot of people, they're uncomfortable for, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 9 months, whatever, and then they go back because it
Mm,
actually takes longer.
that makes a lot of sense. And like, it just makes me think of like going up a mountain. Like if you get stuck in a mudslide, like yeah, that's really easy to just like gravity works. But
Right.
like if you don't want to be in the bottom of that, it's like you got to keep pushing up even if it's hard. And it's not like you have to race to the top. Like sometimes slow and leisurely is a much more sturdy climb than just like getting there. And I want to reflect back to like the beginning of our conversation before we when we first hopped on before the record button started. We
Mm,
were talking because I came to you from a story. I don't remember what post it was, but it had to do with selling with storytelling. And I
mm.
loved it so much. And I joined your storyteller group and we would do like 30 days of videos. I only made it to like day 8. And it's because I hated how I looked on video. And like I just looked haggard to myself. I looked haggard. And I just, well, like hopping on the camera and we're doing a YouTube video. And it was like, it's been months, but it's like a gradual climb up the hill where I'm like, I like how I'm looking more than I feel much more comfortable, and I feel like I have things to say, and, I was also telling you how I felt a little bit, you made me more nervous than some of the other people that I was talking to, and it's the same kind of thing where I have this perception of Monique is connected to rich people problems, can I relate to that? But the thing is, it's like, rich people problems, I feel, are no different than poor people problems, except that poor people believe that money will fix their problems. And I
Oh,
could be wrong, but
okay. So, yes, poor people think that money will solve their problems. Rich people know that money can't solve their problems. So, fuck, it's even harder, right?
yeah, and that's the thing is, like, sometimes so I was talking to another friend, and, like, I had a lot of trauma in my childhood, and it's very obvious. Like, if I tell you my story, you know that there's trauma. I don't have to go into the nitty-gritty. But my other friend, um, it was a lot more, like, she had piano lessons, she had dance lessons, they paid for her college, like, all of the things that make it look like she had an ideal childhood. But when you peel back the layers, there was some very subtle degrading abuse that was going on, and in a lot of ways, in my opinion, it was a lot more insidious because the damage that it did, like, you see the veneer and you're like, you refuse to believe that anything darker could exist underneath that. But it's like when it's obvious, people give you the space for what's obvious. When things are hidden or they're not allowed because the cultural narrative is like, well, that's not allowed, then it becomes a lot more difficult to navigate because there's a lack of compassion, there's a lack of acceptance. And at the end of the day, what you were saying with we have more in common than we have different, like there's not a problem like that one person has that another person can't have a similar or very adjacent experience to somewhere on the planet. Even if it's very strange, like somebody else on the planet is going to have something strange also. And like even if you're abducted by aliens, there's other people that believe they've been abducted by aliens. I'm not saying like I'm not going to get into the aliens, but like that would seem to me an alien, like literally an alienating experience. But even in that, there's camaraderie. Like there's
There's a
human.
whole website, actually, there's a whole website dedicated to people in this area where I live who've been abducted by aliens, who
Oh
they
my gosh.
they tell their stories. Yeah. So yes, you're right. And I want to point something out. So you were saying how you were less comfortable on camera, you weren't really liking the way you looked. When I had that turning point a year ago, I knew what was going to come along with it. And I would say probably for the whole summer I was contemplating this. Okay, so I'm 40, I was 46 then, so I'm 46, and I'm not like the Instagram girl. Like I think about the stereotypical, like there's a 20 something on Instagram. She's got all these videos. She's got cute little photos. She's got youth. She's got perky boobs. She's got whatever, fill in the blank, right? And I went through the same thing. I literally told Derek, like, video has always been my thing, but like, does anyone want to see someone in their mid 40s on video? Like, we don't. Look at what happens when a woman is like, a journalist, or the weather woman, or in movies. They replace her like past a certain age. Like, sorry, honey, we don't want to look at your face. Like, there's a lot prettier things to look at. And I remember, in his very Derek way, he was like, Monique, that's just freaking stupid. It's ridiculous.
I love that. Yes.
That's what he did. He made me laugh, and I'm like, oh. And he goes, so you're telling me that the people who would want to hire you, when they see you, they're going to wish you were 22, telling them this? Like, the 22-year-old doesn't even have a clue what you're talking about? And all of a sudden it was like this, like, get hit on the forehead of, oh yeah, once again, we can make all of these things, but it does come back to, am I going to be comfortable with myself? Because someone isn't hiring me because of my skincare regimen, or what color my hair is, or how skinny I am, or how chunky I am, or what age I am. If somebody resonates with something I write or say, they're hiring me for a much different reason, right? I'm not on OnlyFans. I'm not selling a body part. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think too that that's a conversation that's like, it goes back to, okay, am I going to like myself? Am I going to get comfortable with myself? And then the rest of it is, it's actually irrelevant. It's me coming home to myself again and again and again, and just settling it again and again and again.
I love that term coming home to yourself. I remember the first time I heard it, I had no idea what that meant. And it took like 10 years to actually like get what it means to come home to yourself. And like for me, it's being able to be at peace with all the parts of me, my heart, like my mind, my being, my creative capacity, like all of these different parts. And it's still like a work in progress, like, home renovations.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but that's the internal journey, right? Like to be able to come home again and again and to get more comfortable and like you said, where you feel solid in who you are, so it'd be impossible to break you because you're based in your own being and not external circumstances. And so it's like the idea with everything, like when there's a lot of disruption, the safest place to be is in home, like in yourself, like coming home to yourself. That's the safest place to be, regardless of what you're doing externally and what the external world is like, however that mishmash mashes out. Um, I do think that like it's hard as women because we are often taught to see our like a certain amount of value in beauty. Just as a flip note on that, to just like just as men are often taught, their value is in what their paycheck is or, like, what they bring home. And it just either one of those to me, I hate the idea of smashing anybody into such a small slice of what it is to be. Um, yeah. And but, like, the more that I come home to myself, the less I care what people think of me. Like, I care in the sense that I'm not in, like, a psychopathic, "I don't care what anyone feels or thinks," because I'm still open to the influence of others. I'm not living in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And I can take the input of others and filter it through and take it like some of it's worth taking in and some of it's not. And so it's almost like developing that internal discernment of what I'm willing to interact with and what gets rejected. And that's really what gets rejected was what I don't care about. And it's if I don't care about it, it's it's out.
Yep. Exactly. Well, and the thing that I learned is people are very fickle. They can like
Yeah.
it now and dislike it this afternoon. You know, they can be hot and cold, in and out in a very short period of time. And that's actually what helped me let go of um, my PhD in people pleasing and being able to adjust and acclimate and adapt is it's a moving target. I mean, it
Mhm.
really is a moving target. So what can I actually be solid on and be like, okay, if I'm here, I'm good. And the rest of it can kind of come and go in and out, fluctuate. Because like you said, it's not about like not caring. I actually think it's more about understanding what is going to influence and impact me. And if somebody is solid in my life and they're always for me and they're always for my good and they're giving me insights on my blind spots, that's one thing. But when it's just, everyone who is on the same spinning rock with us and, I don't know if they're coming or going, you have to filter it. You have to have some sort of filtration system. Otherwise, you are going to get tossed every which way and you till you don't even know what's up and down. You don't even know, do I like scrambled eggs or poached eggs? Do I want to wear this? Do I want to do that? And I think that this is, I mean, I see this a lot online. And I think it's this age, because there is a lot of renegotiating, reevaluation, observation. But it's very interesting to observe myself and other women in the 40s and 50s. And it's sort of like it goes through this very weird, almost like teenager again. And when
Yeah.
they come out the other end, they're solid. But in the middle, it's like, do I like myself? Do you like me? Am I okay? Am I going to be okay? Am I over? Am I irrelevant? Am I invaluable? Is my time over? And then it's like, oh yeah, all of our parts come back and we go, what was I thinking? Like it's the most valuable I've ever been. It's not because of the surface level stuff. It's because of the road I have traveled.
Yeah. Yeah. It is like the idea of Gen X going through perimenopause and menopause is so fascinating to me because it's like the fuck around and find out generation
Right.
using all the skills they learned as latchkey kids like to navigate middle age. It's mind blowing. I love watching it online. There's so much of it and it's just it's kind of hidden. Like you have to know where to look, but it's I find it really entertaining and very eye opening, and I actually have a lot of hope from the future because there's trends that I think are underground kind of. And it's like if you know they're there, you can see them, but most people don't really even have an idea that this is existing. And I don't know, it gives me a lot of hope when a lot of people are like, "Oh, is doom and gloom." I'm like, "Uh-uh. Do you see the sound waves of this moving? Like we have so much moving that you're not looking at." And that's like when I feel the disruption of everybody's fear, because it's like the empath part of me can feel that, tuning that out because I feel other vibrations, and that's why, like, where I'm like, "I can move forward, and I will keep moving forward, and I have no idea what forward is, but I'm gonna keep going. Wherever this is going is where I'm going." And, like, I feel very certain in that, and again, not in that bravado sort of way where it's like, "I'm doing this. Look how strong and powerful I am because I said so." Because like, I've lived in that energy, and it's actually very weak, and it collapses very easily on itself, and it's really hard to there's not the flexibility of, like, shifting through it with a lot of grace and a lot of ease. Whereas I feel like the centered, the at home, like, coming home to yourself over and over and over again, that quiet kind of strength has that ability to be like, "Well, that was a disruption," and then shaking it off and moving along.
It's the truth. It goes back to, every ending is just a disguised beginning. It's just it this is a time, this is a period, for a lot of reasons where people are like, it's the end of this, or oh my God, and the whole thing is falling and crashing, and it's like you said, if you can close your eyes and listen for the other things that are also going on, if you can sense what else is happening, it's so hard to have endings. It's so hard to let the towers fall, let things collapse, because whether we like it or not, it's the devil we know, you know?
Yeah.
But the thing of it is that we're still here. We're still going to be here. Like, look at, the Roman Empire. It fell, and oh my God, we're still here, right? Like, there's all these big moments in time that felt like the end, and yet here we go again. Just death is the same way. It's not actually the end. It's like, oh, okay, there's the intermission, go on to the next thing. And we get so caught up in endings, and it's bad, and I don't know what this is, or that's going to be less familiar, and I get it. I mean, nobody prefers the unknown. Yeah. But at the
Yeah.
same time, there is an opportunity for a new flavor, for you know a new experience.
Well, and when you're talking about all of the changes, like, life started, they figure, like, 3.5 billion years ago, the squishy, spongy one-cell organisms popped into existence, and, one of the things that I like, there's an unbroken chain of life from there to me, and I always like to remember that because it just the awe that it fills me with to think that, like, 3 I have the inheritance of 3.5 billion years of lived life experience, like, the dinosaur extinction, the other extinction level events, like, the life that comes through me lived through each one of those and is still here. So, like, there's some grit in that, and there's some,
Yes.
determination, and, like, no matter what happens, like, in my head, like, my head energy, like, my body knows that there's a continuation beyond the conception of what this organ gets in, and that's where, like, being more in connection with my heart is so powerful, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to, like, have you on here with thriving because you definitely have so much thriving energy around you, and so I love that because I feel like this kind of helps bring it full circle. If you have anything do you have any closing thoughts?
You know, what you just said is that we actually are hardwired to live fully. We have ancestors. God, they lived fully. They had so much grit, so much perseverance. It's all inside of us as well. And often, what we conjure with our mind, what we are preparing for, what we're anticipating, is so much different than what's actually happening right now. So, my invitation would be, if you want to thrive more right now, anticipate the future less and be fully here now. Even when it's not pleasant, even when you're in a fight with your son, even when you're having a disagreement with your husband, even when you burned dinner, be fully there as long as you can, completely as you can, and it will segue into something else. You know, I've done that. I've burned the dinner, and then I'm sitting there going, I knew I shouldn't have done this. I was trying to do that while I was doing this, and then somebody will say something, and we'll all start laughing, and then we'll go, let's go have tacos, screw it, and we have a great night.
Love that. I love that you are hardwired to live fully. So it's like when you're not living fully, you're actually shutting down what you're hardwired to do. That's
That's our natural state of being.
it is. Well, I think that's a great note to tie it up on. And I love so much everything you shared. And I am really grateful for your generosity of sharing your time and your know how and your life experience. So thank you. And I hope you have a great Cinco de Mayo.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.